We have all been stuck in a rank and felt that we're not going anywhere, no matter what we do. Then it could be wise to fall back a bit and look at the basics. Sometimes small adjustments can make a big difference. One example of this could be crosshair placement. What is the point of good mouse control if you can't place your crosshair correctly? It is like running without shoes. It is possible, but it makes it a lot harder. I'm here to make it easier and transform you from a potato to pro. Let's go! To make sure we're all on the same page, crosshair placement is the placement of your crosshair. Easy enough. Highlight the importance of this. Here's one bad example of crosshair placement, and here's one good example of crosshair placement. You see the difference? Crosshair placement is obviously important in every FPS game there is. And I'll even argue that it's the most important skill in the FPS genre if you want to become better in the fastest way possible. This is important because you want to have your crosshair on your enemy when you see them. You won't need inhuman reactions.
My God, inhuman reactions!
An insane muscle memory to have a good crosshair placement. You only need map knowledge and a few essentials I'll go through in this video. We'll start with the most important, headshots. Headshots is always important. So a central part of crosshair placement is to always have your crosshair on head level. It's worth mentioning that in games like Apex Legends and other battle royales, you should have your crosshair in the breast area. This is because of flinch and other factors. But in games like Valorant and Counter-Strike, it's essential that you have your crosshair on the head level. So in Counter-Strike and Valorant, every character is the same height. It's something different in Overwatch because of the different characters and stuff, but crosshair placement is still essential here. To make this helpful for everyone, no matter what FPS game you play, I've condensed my examples to 3 different situations that you will find in every FPS. Holding an angle. This is where you are waiting for the enemy to peek. Obviously, you're gonna have your crosshair where you think the enemies are gonna come from, but there's one more thing you need to take into consideration, and that's 1, your reaction time, and 2, how fast the enemies are gonna peek. So when you're holding an angle, you should always have your crosshair placement. Head level, of course, that's the most important thing. But another thing you need to know is that you have to have a small distance from where they will come from and where they will be when you react to them being in your sight. Was that too complicated? I can illustrate this point with a Russian physics question. Bot Alfred is gonna wide peek A long. You are holding with a deagle and your reaction time is 0.3 milliseconds. Bot Alfred moves at the speed of 2 meters per second. At what distance should you position your crosshair? Above pit? To not need to move crosshair at all. There was too much school. Let's get back into this. Pushing. When you're pushing, you should take into consideration where enemies usually are. So you should have some sort of a map knowledge or information on how the enemies usually play on different maps and at different angles they can be. And you should usually wide swing these areas or pre-fire them. And of course, head level, very, very important. Pushing in FPS games can be easy enough, but there's situations where it gets a bit complicated. For example, when there's several angles that the enemies can peek from. This is where you have to use everything you've learned. You have to calculate where you most likely think that the enemies are, but you can't keep flicking in every possible position that the enemies can be. And this is where my last point comes in. Holding an area. This is when you, for example, in Valorant and Counter-Strike are holding a site, and you have to take advantage of the fact that the enemies can't look everywhere. So you can both peek and hold hard angles to clear. And if you're good at mixing these and finding good timings, you're gonna be annoying as hell to push. If you're new to FPS games and want a simple exercise that you can do, just try and do horizontals, slowly moving right to left in-game. This is a very essential movement that you always need to be able to do, and you should couple this with movement as well. So try and go right to left while moving in-game in your preferred FPS game. This was a very basic guide, but I'll go much deeper and I'll share with you all of the knowledge that I've attained from getting the highest rank in Valorant, Overwatch and Counter-Strike. So stay tuned. Ha there.